Morning, everyone. Welcome back, or whatever time it is for you. Great to be back with everyone. This is our final study of the week, and what a week it's been. Let's begin by setting our intention, our consciousness for our study as we connect to the Zohar. We are plugging into the tree of life reality. We're plugging into Bina consciousness, transformation with mercy, bringing light to the world, awakening love and compassion in the world, aligning our thoughts with the thoughts of the Creator, purifying all the pollution that our ego leaves behind in our minds, in our consciousness. And we're meditating that through this connection, we awaken more love in our lives and in the world. Let's read the prayer of the Ari to open up our hearts and prepare ourselves for this great revelation of light with deep appreciation for this great merit that we have to live in such a blessed time that all the light of the Zohar is revealed for the world and we get to be part of it. ריבון העולמים ואדוני האדונים, אב הרחמים והסליחות מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאום בתינו בגידה ובשתך ושקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך, עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, ואנו מחיינו שעשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן אנחנו מקפידים תחנונינו לפניך, שתמחו ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו ועבודתנו אלינו לפניך. וכן יהי רצון לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולאהבתך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברי אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערה בסודות תורתך. ויהי אלמדנו זה נחת ומחליפני כיסא כבודך כך ניחוח, ותציל עלינו עומק כל נשמתנו וכל בחינתנו, ושיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבדיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גילית את דבריך לבעלם וזכותם וזכות אבותם וזכות תורתם ודמותם וקשתם. יעמוד לנו לבן הקשה בדבריו אלו, ובזכותם תאר עינינו במה שאנו לומדים כמאמר נעים מזמירות ישראל גאלנה וביט נפלא מתורתך, כי אדוני ייתן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהי לו רצון מפיו והגלים מלפניך, אדוני שוב וגואלי. Today's session, today's study has been sponsored for the quick and complete healing of Alex ben Rachel. We're meditating that through our study, he will receive strength and healing and protection and have a quick recovery to help bring him to a quick recovery and for him to be able to do more of the amazing things he does for the world, all the good things he does for his family, the love and everything that he has, to be able to come back to full strength and to continue to bring light to the world. So we are in paragraph 119, the final paragraph of this chapter, and then we're going to get to the commentary of Rav Ashlag. So we're discussing the different types of anger or judgments. We said one anger leads to blessings, one anger leads to curses. And then we spoke about what happens at night when the body is left without the soul, and then when the soul comes back, we need to wash our hands to remove the impurity that remains. So let's read this last paragraph, and then we'll go into what Rav Ashlag explains about all of this entire chapter. So here we go. When discussing the water that is left behind from the washing of the hands in the morning, you should not give this water to witches, people who do magic and witchcraft and stuff, because they can use that water to cause a lot of harm and damage to other people. Because these waters, these bitter, cursed waters, because these are bitter and cursed waters. The Creator desires to purify Israel. Ulmehve kadishin, and to make them holy. Dichtiv v'zarakti alechem mayim te'orim utartem mikol tumotechem mikol gilulechem ataharetchem. Because as it says in the book of Ezekiel, the Creator says, I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and you will be pure, you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all impurities, all of your impurities. and from all of your fetishes. I don't, that's a funny word. How do you translate gilulechem? I guess we'll just say fetishes. I will purify you. So basically, the Creator will purify us from all negativity, all ways that we are uh, detached and disconnected from the light of the Creator. So now let's get into Rav Shimon's beautiful commentary. I did plan to make charts and graphs and explanations, and I did not manage to. So we'll just kind of imagine it in your head, I guess, and we'll try and break it down as much as possible. But let's start with the actual washing of the hands. There was some confusion yesterday about what we explained. I did post in the chat to hopefully clarify, but let's just clarify this, and then we'll go into Rav Asher's commentary. So the washing of the hands in the morning is very simple and very important. Before you touch, as Zohar says, before you touch your body, before you touch anyone, before you touch food, before you anything, you want to make sure that your hands are clean to remove that impurity, that negativity that's left behind. So practically the way you do it, as I posted it in the chat, but basically you have you fill up the cup. If the cup is full, you pick up the cup with your right hand, you pass the cup over to your left hand, and when the cup is in your left hand, you pour the water over your right hand first. You'll then pass the cup back, pour it over your left, back over your right, back over your left, back over your right for the last time, and your left for the last time. And that is, and then you're done. You would then, as it says in the thing, you rub your hands together, you say the blessing, outside of the bathroom, of course, and you dry them and you're done. You want to do this even before you use the bathroom, right? The first thing you want to do is you wash them, and then because when you use the bathroom, you have to touch your body or whatever happens. So you want to make sure that your hands are, before you touch anything, your hands are clean. So that's the practicality of it. Let's understand the deeper understanding, the deeper secret of it. So Ramashlik says, Bio Ma'amar. This is the explanation, clarification of the entire essay, the entire chapter of the Zohar. There are two aspects of judgments, and I plan to have. Anyway, you just look at this nice picture of the wet hand while we study this. There are two aspects of deen, judgment. Now, don't worry if you don't understand all the intricacies and all the details here. We're going to explain them in general as well. But the first aspect of judgment, and reminding ourselves as we study things that we don't understand, it awakens our surrounding light. And just by saying these words, just by awakening this desire, it cleanses our consciousness and awakens the light of our soul. So the first aspect of deen, the first aspect of judgment, is comes about when, as we've learned, Malchut elevates to Binah. And when Malchut elevates to Binah, in order to prepare Binah to become to prepare Malchut to be a vessel, then the three letters of Aleph Lamed Hey in Binah drop out of Binah, and then Binah loses its stature, loses its level of 10 sfirot. Instead, it loses its upper three and just has the lower level. So when the Malchut elevates to Binah, Binah is now not in its state of greatness. It is diminished in terms of its level, in terms of its connection, in terms of the light that comes from it. So it's called the six levels without the head. It's missing the head. Okay, so whenever we talk about something missing the head, it means that it's missing its higher level. That's the first aspect of judgment, where the higher level is missing, which represents an aspect of lack, aspect of judgment. The second level, the second types of judgments are drawn from the pure left column before it's included in the right column. Okay, so that's the judgments called shuruk. So it's pure left column. So those are the second types of judgments. So now, when we're talking about two types of anger, the first anger the Zohar is talking about is the first aspect of judgments, where the Malchut elevates to Binah, and Binah loses its higher level of light and consciousness. So that's an aspect of lack, aspect of judgment, but we're still talking about Binah here. So it still represents great light that flows, but a lesser light that flows. And the whole point of the diminishment of the level of Binah is not from a place of lack, but it's actually for a place of construction of the Malchut. So it's it's like Binah sacrificing to some degree its own stature to help Malchut be built, but then it goes back to its original state. So in that state, it's like um, it's still a whole, it's still in the frame of being blessed, because the blessings come, the judgments are blessed because they come from above, from Binah down to the lower levels of Zerampina Malchut. Um, and without that process, then there would never be light revealed down below. So it's a process of diminishment, but for greater good, for greater light to come down. And that's why that's as the Zohar mentioned, as referenced earlier, that represents the energy of Abraham, how Abraham received blessings. Abraham had to go to war, but it was not for his own ego or for any reasons of hatred. It was to bring light to the world. So the act of judgment was really for revealing light. Like think about like even as I'd say, when can judgment reveal light, or when can judgment be good? When you set boundaries, or let's say a person has to go through surgery, you have to cut a person, which is judgment, but it's really to help the person, to save the person. So it's you use judgment for mercy, right? I hope I'm making that clear. So that's when we talk about the Baruch blessing, it represents the source of blessings down in this world, that shines from Bina, um, but because it's in diminished state, it's there's aspects of judgments there. So that's why Abraham was blessed. Now, what's the second type of, and that's why he used that judgment to overcome the other kings, the other nations. But it was from a place of blessing. Now, what's the other type of anger, the other type of judgment? That's what we said is pure left column without right column. So that represents the serpent, as we said. That's the snake that is cursed. So when it's pure left column, when it's pure selfishness, that's cursing because it's like connecting to the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge is ups and downs, good and bad. And when you connect to the tree of knowledge, then it's not sure if you're going to experience goodness or you're going to experience life or death. If you're going to experience goodness or negativity. Because then the rule of the first tzimtzum comes in, which is the manula, which is the lock, which means the light cannot come in. So why is it death? Because when the vessel is shut down from receiving, because it's pure left column, which is pure disaffinity with the light, then the life force needs to leave. So that's why it results in death. And that's why it says that when you eat from the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve were told, if you eat from the tree of knowledge, then surely you will die. Why? Because you've detached yourself from the source of life, because it's pure left column where there's no ability to allow the light to flow. And that's the Tzimtzum Aleph, that the life force has to leave. Okay. Again, don't worry if you don't understand all of this. We're just going through the commentary, and we will understand deeper soon. Then that's also why the cursed is also the aspect of Shimon and Levi, Simon and Levi, because their judgment was from pure left column, harsh judgments, and when their judgments were from the harsh left column, then when the judgments are from harsh left column, that results in a connection to the tree of knowledge. That results in the manula, the lock. That results in the light having to leave, and that is where their anger becomes wrath and ends up in murder. And that's what they did. They massacred the city, which is different than the war that Abraham waged on the kings, because Abraham was not coming from a place of anger. Abraham was not coming from a place of revenge. While the brothers, Shimon and Levi, they came from a place of revenge. So their war was from judgment, from anger. So that's why they killed the people in Shechem. So it's a different type of anger. It's the anger of pure left column. While Abraham's or the blessing was different. So then the Zohar explains. So now Rav Shimon is going through all the paragraphs that we studied and explaining them one by one. So when we talk about Abraham, what was Abraham? We say in Binah there are two columns of right and left, and then the central column comes and balances them. From there, because Zerampin created the three columns in Binah, then Zerampin also gets three columns. So Don't worry if you don't understand what that means, but either way, Abraham becomes the right column of Zerampin, which is blessing. Isaac becomes the left column of Zerampin. And what from Isaac comes both Jacob and Esau, as we said. So Jacob represents the aspect of the central column of Zerampin, and that's the aspect of the blessing as well. Now, the Rav Ashlag here differentiates between the blessing of Abraham and the blessing of Jacob. In Hebrew, Abraham is Baruch, which means blessed. Jacob is Mevorach, which also translates as blessed, but it's different. I think the difference between Baruch and Mevorach, maybe Baruch is like inherently blessed, and Mevorach means when you're blessed from something or someone. That's how I understood it. So that's Jacob, Mevorach. So now the Zohar goes in, now Rav Ashlag explains what happens at night when we're sleeping, because now we understand these two types of judgment. Which judgment is there at nighttime? It's the second type of judgment. At nighttime, it's when the left column rules. That is when the left side, the aspects of judgment, which represents the harsher anger and judgment, have control over this world. Right? We've learned many times that at nighttime, that's when the forces of negativity and all the forces of darkness and the negative spirits, they rule over this world, etc. So at night, that's when left column controls, and therefore, because left column is in control, then the light has to leave. And again, practically, whenever we are controlled by our left column, the light has to leave. The blessings have to leave because we're lacking affinity, right? The light cannot be there. So when we sleep, because our soul leaves, that's why we are considered 1/60th, 1/60th of death. We experience 1/60th of the death because as our soul leaves, we're connected to that pure left column of death. Our body is left without our soul. That's why our soul has to leave because it's the time of judgment of left column. And that's what sleep is. Again, sleep is not for the body necessarily. Sleep is more for the soul. Then what happens? The holy soul leaves, and that leaves the body as dead. And when the soul comes back, then the impurity that resided over the body as we were sleeping leaves, but it remains in the hands. Now, what are the hands? The hands are what are called the vessels of the upper three sefirot. If you remember, talking about the first type of judgment, we said that the head in Binah left, which represents the upper three sefirot left. So the hands represent those vessels of the upper three sefirot, which are called Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, that elevate to become Chochmah, Binah, Dat. Okay, they come to a state of gadlut, of greatness, and they become Chochmah, Binah, Dat. So when the soul comes back in the morning, it only comes back in the lower aspect, not with the higher aspect, the Vav Tzavot. It comes back with the lower aspect, but it doesn't come back with the higher aspect. When we wash our hands, what we do is we elevate the hands from the level of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, and we bring them to the level of the Chochmah, Binah, Dat. We elevate them to the state of the head, of the gadlut, of greatness. Our soul is not fully manifested within us, and the light that we're supposed to receive, the holiness of our soul, the greatness of our soul, does not fully reside within us until we've washed our hands, as it says, like to elevate from Chesed Tiferet to Chochmah Binah Dat. And that's when we draw the light of the upper three sefirot. That's when we draw the light from, like Binah draws the light down from Abba and Ima, supernal father and mother. So Binah is waiting to draw down that light once the upper three sefirot, once that structure is in place. And that's what we do when we wash our hands. It's like we're drawing down the flow. We're preparing ourselves. We're allowing ourselves to receive the flow from the higher levels, the innate holiness and purity that is supposed to be within us. And that's when a person can actually become, that's when a person, it says when a person washes their hands, they sanctify themselves, they become holy because now they've actually drawn upon themselves that greater revelation of light. And that's where tahara, purity, comes from, because it represents the vessels of the hands that are now elevated. I'll have to skip a bit because I just noticed the time. So the Aleph Lamed Hey now returns. And then now Binah is in the state of wholeness, and then it could draw all the light from Abba and Ima, spiritual father and mother. Okay, now then, and because that light is a great light, then it results in a great revelation and a great elevation. Okay, skip. Okay, so now the Zohar spoke about what's called an upper vessel and a lower vessel, right? So when a person wants to sanctify, which means wash their hands and prepare to receive all this light of holiness, the light of their soul, you need a higher, an upper vessel and a lower vessel. So what are these, the upper vessel, lower vessel? The upper vessel is, as we explained, is like the cup. The upper vessel is the secret of Binah. And Binah holds everything, at least from our perspective. Um, and Binah has already been purified. Um, and therefore, the water that comes forth from Binah, the abundance that flows from Binah, is like the water that pours out of the cup. That comes from it's like complete abundance that comes from the purified Binah, right? So as we're pouring the water over our hands, coming from the upper vessel, it's like the water of purification. It's like the water of wholeness, the water of blessings and abundance that are pouring out from Binah onto our hands, which represent our hands, which are the vessels of Chesed Gevurah Tiferet that need to be purified from the tzimtzum, from the diminishment and the impurity of the snake that we received at night when we received the left column energy. That's why our hands can be used for good or be used for bad, for evil. So when we wash our hands, then we guarantee that we're connecting them to the side of positivity and blessings. They're purified, which means our intentions will be pure, our actions will be pure, our actions will be those of the light. And then it says there is the lower vessel. What's the lower vessel? That's the malchut that is not sweetened by binah, which represents the klipot in Biriya, Yitzira, and Asiyah. So the water, as it flows over our hands, we said earlier that the vessel is actually the impure water. So you could understand it maybe as the vessel, the basin, or the sink, or wherever the water goes, or the water itself after it's been washed over our hands, which now receives all the negativity that was in our hands. And that's the lower vessel. And now the final paragraph here of Avashlag. Um, and the water, through the water that comes from the upper vessel, which represents the abundance from the pure vessel of Binah that pour over the hands, that are the vessels of Chesed Gevurah Tiferet. From there, everything is restored, and and then the reason why that water is negative, and once that whole process happened, then as the verse, the last verse that we read in this chapter was, finally we are at a state where we are pure enough to be able to receive higher levels of holiness and purity. As it says, one second, כי כוח עוד מבינה בא מכלי עליון שהריסה מקבלים חגת מוחית נקרא בקדושה ומכל ידע למלכות וכוחות הצמצום והעתיד שמתמלהי כלי התחתון. So we said the malchut elevates the bina, but now malchut goes back down. But because malchut has been purified and all the light is flown from bina, then even though the malchut before was not in a state to be able to receive blessings, now that it's been purified and everything that happened as we washed our hands, etc., now the endless blessings can flow. When it says that I sprinkle upon you pure water, so it's like water that now the tzimtzum, the diminishment of the light, has been dealt with. So now just endless blessings can flow down to lower places, down to our world. And that's when it says that we're purified from all negativity. So the washing of the hands is actually the first step of really doing our work throughout the day. What's the point of our day? The point of our day is to not just purify our hands, right? Our hands are just the beginning, which allow us to purify our consciousness throughout the day. It makes sure that our day, when we wash our hands and remove the negativity in the beginning, it makes sure that our day is actually one that is full of purification, which means removing all aspects of ego, all aspects of selfishness, all aspects of negativity that I have within my vessel, that I have within my consciousness. It starts with washing on the hands. When I wash my hands, I draw the supernal light of purification. I elevate my consciousness, I elevate my vessel, I come to a higher state of consciousness, and then throughout the day, I'll actually be able to purify, my ego and everything else I do throughout the day. Because you draw upon yourself that greater light. I hope I managed to explain this well enough. Either way, let's go to the next chapter, chapter 13. We're very short on time, so we're going to move a bit quick. So it says that they wanted to kill their brother. The brothers of Joseph, they saw him. They said, "Oh, here comes the dreamer," and they determined amongst themselves that they were going to kill him. So then the other brothers interceded. No, let's not kill him. Let's just throw him into this pit. So they threw him into the pit. Vayikachuhu, vayashlichu to abora. They took him and they threw him into the pit. Ve'aborek, and the pit was empty. Ein bo mayim, there is no water. So paragraph 120. ויקחו וישליכו אותו הבורק אין בו מים. רבי יהודה פתח ואמר, Rabbi Yehuda opens and says, תורת השם תמימה משיבת נפש. He quotes a verse, Psalm 19. The teachings of Torah Hashem, the Torah of the Creator, the teachings of the Creator, is perfect. Meshivat nafesh, it renews life, it restores the soul. Now, the Zohar here is now going into explaining when it says that the pit was empty. The Midrash says that while the pit was empty, it says there was no water. Water represents the Torah, represents spiritual wisdom and connection to the light. So now the Zohar is going to go into a whole discussion about the power of spiritual study, the power of the Torah, the power of consciousness. How important is it for a person to study the Torah, to be connected to this wisdom, not just to study intellectually, but to live this wisdom, to internalize? Because whoever toils in connecting to the Torah, a person merits life in this world of Amadate, in the world to come. They merit both spiritual and physical blessings. And they merit both worlds. And even if someone studies the Torah, does not study it lishma, which lishma represents for its own sake, meaning that if a person studies for their own they study it for their own benefit, meaning not to reveal light in the world, not to attain affinity with the Creator, but maybe for alternative agenda. They still, nevertheless, they do receive blessings in this world. If they're we'll explain soon. They do receive blessings in this world, but they do not receive judgment in the world to come. So even if a person has access and connection to this light and this wisdom, but they don't do it with the pure intention. They have ego when they do it. They're not doing it to necessarily reveal light in the world. They maybe have ulterior motives, but the fact that they're accessing this great wisdom and light, it brings great blessings in their life, and it removes judgment from them in the world to come. Let's go, because we started a bit late and we spent a lot of time in the commentary. Let's just go over a little bit of time. Paragraph 121. Come and see. So it says in Proverbs, in length of days in her right hand, in her left, riches and honor. What does Ochia mean? What is length of days? A person has length of days when they study the Torah lishma, meaning they do it for its own sake. They study with the right consciousness, with the pure intention to help awaken affinity between them and the Creator, to help reveal light in the world, to help connect to the Creator. Because a person will have length of days in this world. Because there's length of days in that world, because there is length of days which represents the eternal world. These days, they are surely days, meaning that they are days of blessings and goodness and abundance that a person is able to experience. There is a place of certainty, of security, of holiness from above. Meaning the person receives all the endless blessings that they're expecting. Because when a person has certainty in that world when they study the Torah, meaning you have certainty in the spiritual reality. When you are connected spiritually, you know that everything in this world is an illusion, and your desires only connect to make spiritual connections. And every connection that you make spiritually is not for what expectations you might have in this world, and you might expect for things to go your way in this world. Oh, well, I'm spiritual, so things should go my way. Why do negative things happen if I'm such a spiritual person? That's not how it works, because we live in a world of judgment. If your desires to think spiritually, then you're not going to always see it manifest the way that you expect, but you draw this light on a spiritual level that awakens on a soul level, um, and the way you go through the problems and the challenges are different. The challenges are coming, but your consciousness is different. You have a different level of connection, and you have a different experience in the challenges. So when a person is making the effort and have certainty in their study, the takva bu alma, what happens is they when they have that connection, then they draw strength and happiness in this world, in the everlasting world, excuse me, the eternal world. Bismillah oshev kavod, and that's why it says that bismillah oshev kavod on the left there's going to be riches and honor. Agatava v'shalva it le behalma, that a person will manifest goodness and blessings in this world. So just to recap, because we're out of time, the Zohar is saying when a person makes an effort to connect to this light, it makes an effort to study this wisdom. The Zohar will go a lot more into this, and we'll have to wait till Monday for that. It's with the desire that a person has and the effort that a person makes that they'll be connected to these levels of consciousness that will help them overcome whatever they're going through in life. Even if you don't have pure intention in your study, even if you don't understand everything you're studying, even if you're imperfect in your connection, the desire you have is more important than how you do it and what you understand. The desire to connect is what draws down the blessings when you are connecting to such a pure and powerful source. We're going to have to stop here. Today didn't go as I planned, but we'll continue with paragraph 122 on Monday. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Lots of love to everyone. This is Shabbat HaChodesh. It's an incredibly powerful Shabbat that actually prepares our entire year ahead. It's where we can take control over all aspects of our lives. We can take control over the zodiac. We can take control over all aspects of our consciousness and behavior and make a shift of true transformation for the coming year. Lots of love, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, and see you soon.